What, pray tell, you might be asking me, am I doing in the car again? I had way different intentions today. I had planned on doing a video at my station. I think I still will do that, but I thought I'd just say hi and pop in first for a chat. My plan today was to go to Home Depot and to the bank. I'm skipping Home Depot because I just needed a simple washer for the bathroom sink because there's a little leak. I didn't know there were so many options and choices, and do I need this? Do I need that? So I'm going to need YouTube to help me with sorry, I'm just an old lady. So I'm skipping that for now. I am going to Wawa because I have to pass Wawa to get to the bank, and it's noon now, so I'll probably do mostly decaf. And I'm going to the bank. It's not even my bank, it's actually Chris's bank. I'm going there because we got our car loan for the Kia through this bank, and they say when you do that, you're automatically a member of the bank, but I haven't gotten anything indicating how to pay where's my first payment going? I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that I should have an online access to the account. So I just want to stop in and see how that works, or if I have to sign up for something. I don't know, but I do need coffee. So I am going to tell you a story today about Cathy. And if you're into the paranormal, this is a good story. I mean, this happened to me personally. So I will talk to you in just a little bit. I'm not sure when, but I don't know that I'm going to just tell you in the car. I will find a station. I mean, it's not private enough where I usually do things. The basement has a finished area, but it's all fluorescent lights, and I don't like them. And then there's the deck. I've been wanting to vlog from the deck. However, it's wet. It has been raining like crazy. And I can't complain. When I think of the floods in Texas and New Mexico, and the recent, severe weather, I can just take an abnormal amount of rain. That's fine. All right, I'll see you in a little bit. Hi, everybody. I'm back. So today I do want to tell you a story about someone named Cathy. And this was about 15 years ago, so God willing, I should remember all the details. And I had a friend named Cathy. And Cathy was a great person. She was one of my besties, and she actually passed away. I want to say it was a few months after my wedding reception, so yeah, sometime probably 2021, maybe late. And she had had a double lung transplant that was rejected, and there's just nothing at that point that they could do. She didn't make it onto the transplant list for a second set of lungs, but I was very impressed on how long that she lasted after the transplant. Cathy was also a Wiccan, so she was a witch, in case anybody's wondering what that is, and that's a whole different topic. And here I am, a spiritualist sort of / Buddhist, so we didn't have all the same beliefs, but we had a lot of similarities, and I really appreciated her. She taught me an awful lot about clearing homes and haunting situations, and she was very good at what she did, and I I'm humbled by the experience because I don't think I was as effective as she was. And there were cases that we took I don't think that I could have done without her. So we started a little side hustle business called Spirit Shifters. And we got all the paperwork together and how we were going to present it and rates and everything else. And we weren't just going to take, and we didn't take clients on who were just like, we think our dorm room is haunted. Could you come investigate? No. We only took cases where the house was actually inhabitable, okay, that it really had to be a serious case. And I guess we would have gone anywhere in the world as long as our travel expenses were paid. So we tried to stay a little local, but if we did have to travel, then we charged a little bit more on our rate. Okay, so you're up to speed on that. So about 15 years ago, while we were taking cases, I got an email from someone, and I'm going to change some names and stuff, and we're going to call him John. And John and his family lived in a small rural town of Pennsylvania. And it was Pennsylvania. That part's the truth. So said that, we had intake forms and things like that, because a lot of times a haunting, like, there's a reason why it starts. There's always a reason why it starts, especially if you lived in the house and nothing actually happens except one day, boom, So we like to know all the personalities that live in the house and things like that. So, which I'll share with you in just a little bit. So at the time, I was teaching a course. It was like a 12-week course on development, on personal development, spiritual development, and psychic development. So basically bolstering the intuition. I thought this might be a great idea to take my students with me. And I told Cathy, we're just going to investigate and see if this is a case that, we need to take. I knew we were going to take it, though, because it was really bad. The situation was really, really dire. So what I did with the students is we walked around the house, and I already knew the story, which I'm going to share, but we walked around the house, and then my students would just give me what they felt and where they felt it and things like that. So it was a very good, it was kind of a win-win for me, but it wasn't a win for the house. It wasn't a win for this family. So as John had described it to me, things would start moving around the room. Things would be missing. And it was just little things at first. It was like, did I really see that? Or, or I swear I left this here. And it escalated over time. And he would get pushed a little bit in the small of his back. And he felt like what he assumed was someone short, like a child, pushing him. And then things would sort of knock over, like on a table. And there were just little things, but they were big things, I mean, he was very calm about it, which really was a big help to the situation. And then he goes on to describe how his daughter, Cathy, had been going through a lot of, she was 17, going through a lot of that teenage angst. But she was a little moody and bitchy, and I guess it was hormones. And she would really she wasn't getting along with either of her parents. She was cursing at them, and it was a terrible situation. And they also had two younger boys. And I don't know if she was getting along with them either. So one day, Cathy decided to unalive herself and not be here anymore. So I had to be very careful, sorry, because of YouTube. But you know what that means. So I feel like it might have been after school one day that John heard a big thump ran to her bedroom door, and she was hanging from the back of the door. She had a canopy bed. It wasn't a very big room. And she had apparently stepped off the footrail of the bed. It was like one of those big brass beds. And he was able to get her down, call 911, and she was still breathing at that point, but barely. They got her to the hospital and they couldn't save her. 17 years old. Brilliant girl. I mean, honor student, was on her way to a scholarship. It's just those things that make you go, what? You had your whole life ahead of you, right? And fast forward, in the coming days after her passing, the activity in the house became like critical mass. I mean, things were flying off shelves. One thing hit John right in the head, like it was on a mantle. I think it was like a cleaner or something, like a bottle pledge or something like that. And just hit him right in the head. I don't know if I could have lived there. So that's when Cathy and I came in. And there was no way I could have done that by myself. No way. So we have our little gear, whether it's sage, smudge, certain crystals, certain things to just assist us. We both had our tools and we tackled things a little differently, but we were complementary to each other. So she did her little Wiccan thing over in this room, and I would do my little thing in another room, prayer, meditation, and sometimes even holy water. I mean, I just felt like every tool, everything was an intention, just wanted to cleanse and protect. But we had to communicate. We didn't know what we were really dealing with. We narrowed down the activity, besides it being all over the house. We narrowed it down to the dining room, where we both saw what we assumed was a little boy crouching over in the corner of the dining room, and it was dark. So it was more like shadows kind of thing. And what we got in communication was confirming that this was a lost child. Well, in further investigation, John found a book of shadows, which means Katie was practicing witchcraft herself. So this became, Cathy's area for sure. And Cathy enlightened me on those practices, especially with young people. So there was the Book of Shadows had it was writings about not just spells, but sort of a journal. And there was an entry that said, Dad asked me if there was something going on in the house, and I denied it. And I kind of feel bad because it's messing with him. But I didn't have the heart to tell him that Ashley and I were in the basement playing with the Ouija board. It wasn't a Ouija board like in a box. It was actually an online oracle, which just scares the heck out of me. It scared me then. It still scares me now, because I'm sure somewhere that app is available, and it came through. It came through like the computer screen. They were talking to something with that oracle. And I don't know what the conversation actually was, but in some way they invited this little boy to the house. And from that day on, life would just never be the same in that household. So this put a lot of, more dynamic into the situation. Because one would think maybe that was Katie, because she was a volatile child. But the fact was that John was experiencing this paranormal phenomena before Katie passed. So now it starts coming together. So we did our thing at the house and we left. And we always do follow-ups. And 3 days later, everything was good. Said everything was calm. This happened before. They want you to think everything's good. They don't want us messing with anything. They're like, okay, I'm good. House is clear. And they just wait. They just wait until we're off doing some other case or, just living our lives. And they start up. I got a call from John that, it's ramping up actually, and you need to come. So I think that next visit I came by myself. So I go in there, and as soon as I walk in the door, first of all, you can feel it. I mean, you can feel this vibration. But as soon as I walk in the door, all the doors upstairs slam. CD player goes on. A TV in a different room, I didn't get to see the TV, but you could hear it go on. And he said it's constant. And his wife was working the night shift, and he was working day shift. And she did not want to be alone even in the day. So she I don't know where she took the boys. They were preteens. And I don't know, but they didn't want to subject them to it, and she was just beside herself. I would have been the same way. He was very brave, John. He would just talk to it, and we had sort of coached him on how to talk to a spirit and not talk to a spirit. You want to be forceful and firm. You don't take your sword out or anything, but unless you're a Wiccan, that's a whole different. That's a ritual I'm talking about. But John was right there with us, like he really wanted to help us solve this. I took a tour of the house again, and he was telling me room to room what actually was happening, because it was so much more active. There was a big crack in the bedroom, the master bedroom wall, and it was kind of like stucco sort of on the inside. So imagine this. Let's say somebody's on the outside of your room with a blowtorch, and in your wall, you're seeing this torch from the other side. So there was this light, this beam of light actually breaking the wall apart. He and his wife were both in there. And that was the actual moment she said, going to stay with my mom's or wherever, just, call me when it's gone. So this was bad. They were ready to put the house up for sale. And this was going on for a few months. So I called Cathy and said, we need to repeat the situation, and we have to reassess things. I mean, we need to get down to it, right? Because this just didn't seem like a little boy. This was not playing around. This was demonic. Much lower energy than a little boy that was lost. And as the years went by, I had learned more about that situation being very common, that they want you to think that they're harmless and they're lost and they just got in through a portal and they didn't mean to. And can you send us home? We don't want to be here. It wasn't the case. It was not the case. So that ended up being a demon that was crouched down in that dark dining room, posing as an innocent child. So now we were dealing with something that I didn't really know that we could pull it off. I didn't even know that you could sell a house in that condition unless somebody was really into, enjoying that kind of stuff. But I can't even imagine anybody doing that. especially when they were aggressive and they were throwing things at John. And I'm stuttering because I'm trying to remember all of these details because there were so many things that were happening in this house. So we cleansed the house again from the attic to the basement. You think that's the way you clean it. You clean it from the top to the bottom. We did that with sage. We did that with salt. We did a lot of things that, I won't go into here, but I know that that's going to be a question. How did you cleanse it? We like to make sure the house is clean before we do that, physically clean, and it was always kept very well, so that wouldn't be a problem. So in this book of shadows, Cathy had also alluded to another book that she and Ashley kept in a tree at a park. And we went there. We looked. We were at the house, and John said he had a dream that said you need to find the guy with the long beard and the long hair at the church down the street. And I was like, Jesus? Well, Cathy stayed behind working on the house. John and I went to that church. And it was a Catholic church. And there was, I took a container and got some holy water while I was there. And there was pictures of the priest on the wall. He looked just like ZZ Top. He had a long white beard, long white hair. But unfortunately, the secretary had to tell us that he was on vacation this week. So, okay, fine. Gonna have to deal with this for now, but we go back to the house. We're in communication with a go-between because I don't want to talk directly to a demon, so that's what guides are for, and we just kept working on it. And so we burned the black candle and then the white candle, and we had all kinds of rituals going on. And I was doing as much mediumship as I could with guides without actually talking to demons. I was not comfortable, to say the least. I was wearing my ministerial stole, and and Cathy had her gear that made her protected. And looking back at it today, we had to quit the business because Cathy's health was not good, and she couldn't expose herself to certain situations. You don't know what you're walking into. And I felt the same way once I was diagnosed with a cancer, which was not long after she passed. So we got the job done. That was the bottom line. John was keeping in touch with us about how things were going at the house and how much more peaceful it was. And we were giving him instructions on how to keep it cleansed, especially while it was a very fragile time. So he had let us know that he went back to that church when the priest was back from vacation. And they had such a good conversation that John and his wife were going to that church, and the priest came to the house and blessed it. And I think that that's what Cathy really wanted. She wanted to sort of seal the deal. They stayed in the house. They didn't sell it, which was wonderful. And they raised their kids. And I don't know if I could have done that. So many memories, I was given permission to tell that story, but I didn't want to reveal who it actually was. I thought maybe I would write a book one day, but that didn't happen. And the further we get from it, the more the details kind of fade. I think about all the things I wanted to do in my career. I got a lot done, though. I really did. Just didn't think it was going to be over so soon. So that's the story of Cathy, John, and the rest of the family. It wasn't one I would have liked to actually go through, and it ended up taking at least a month to get it fixed. But we did, and that was one of the more exciting cases I have another one that I will share at some point with Cathy. And in the meantime, I really miss my friend, and she does visit me often. So I'm at least blessed with that. She has 4 beautiful daughters, grown daughters here. And so she has a lot to stick around for. And I know that they're still heartbroken a few years later. And she has grandchildren to watch grow up. Okay, I'm going to get going. So love you all. Have a good day. And I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.